Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, a podcast that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn. I'm flying solo once again, bringing you another bonus episode of Under the Cover, with this episode's focus timing in with the conclusion of Taylor Swift's massive Eras Tour. And while I'm personally not the biggest Swiftie on the planet, I've always respected her as an artist and actually have enjoyed many of her country offerings prior to my two daughters latching onto her pop music and becoming huge fans of hers, which at the end of the day made me a bigger fan of her music because I went from just enjoying her songs at a personal level to now having an even bigger love and admiration for her songs, coming from the place of a parent, seeing their kids fall in love with an artist and the joy that they exude when they sing along with those songs. And yes, there were many, many, many listens. So the song that I chose to dive into tonight is a Taylor Swift song that I've personally become a fan of, one, because of my girls, and even more so because I'm actually a fan of the song. And I've become a bigger fan of the covers that I'm going to share with you this evening. And I'm not going to say that the covers are better than the original or not, but in this instance, I will say that there are a few that make an extremely compelling argument for a neck-and-neck fistfight over which one reigns supreme. Though I'll respect the hardcore Swifties that are listening to this that are probably appalled at that mere suggestion. However, I hope anybody listening will give all of these versions a listen to see maybe where I'm coming from, because at the end of the day, a well-written song is a well-written song, and it can be interpreted and reinterpreted in many different ways and still hit the mark. And Cruel Summer from Taylor's 2019 album Lover is definitely one of those songs. This track was written by Swift along with Jack Antonoff and St. Vincent and features a mix of synth pop and electro pop with the slightest hint of 80s pop, which might be one of the reasons I was drawn to the original anyway. There's no denying the catchiness of this track, and I would say that upon the dozens of times I've heard pretty much all of Taylor's albums, this was the one song that I always looked forward to listening to all the way through when it came on. So as I did with my episode focusing on 7 covers of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers' Refugee, instead of creating a mixtape, I'm going to use this episode to dive into and hopefully introduce you to some cover songs you may or may not already be familiar with. If you visit the episode page at myweeklymixtape.com, I'm also going to post the videos for each of these songs I'm talking about tonight, because in a lot of instances, these songs just aren't available on streaming, or they're from deluxe editions, live performances, or just the label nonsense keeping them off the streaming platforms. However, some of these versions are actually available to purchase digitally on sites like Qobuz, which is QOBUZ.com if you want to own a copy. Qobuz also has a high-resolution streaming package if you're looking for an alternative to Spotify or Apple Music. I basically use them all the time when buying a CD is not available, because you know me, I love buying my CDs, and not all artists are releasing music via CDs nowadays, so I have to turn to the digital versions, and Qobuz offers a way to get them in either CD quality or high-resolution audio, which I don't personally use, but for those of you that are audiophiles, right up your alley. Now, before we get into the covers, if you like what you're hearing on My Weekly Mixtape between episodes like this or the regular mixtape curation episodes or my interviews, you can help me out by either telling a friend about the show, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. There you can enjoy ad-free episodes of the show, gain early access to upcoming episodes, hear bonus episodes like this one, chime in on future topics, become a guest curator, and so much more. Once again, that's patreon.com/myweeklymixtape.
Hello, loyal Pantheon listener. CEO Christian here, and I sincerely hope you're enjoying this podcast episode. I have a very exciting opportunity to share. I'll try to be quick so you can get right back to it. Pantheon has been around for almost 10 years, and I bet some of you listening right now have as well. We thank you, the loyal listeners of our shows. After some rapid growth in the last year, we decided to seek capital investment that will help us level up even more. And after some thought, we decided we needed to reward our loyal listeners, like you, the first chance at becoming a part owner in our future. Start Engine is equity crowdfunding that is approved by the SEC, a chance for you to get into the startup game. For less than the average price of a concert ticket, you can become a part owner of a new media company with secured shares in Pantheon. Please go to startengine.com/Pantheon for all the detailed information and then sign up to invest. Or just go to startengine.com and type Pantheon Media in the search bar. Pantheon Media, where fans belong, like you. All right, enjoy the rest of your show.
All right, let's get into Cruel Summer. Version 1. First off, we're going to go heavy here. I wanted to start with a version of Cruel Summer that's pretty far removed from the original. So that way, we rip the Band-Aid off for any of the Swifties listening. This is a pretty friggin' heavy, gender-flipped version of Cruel Summer from the band Versus Me. Now, it keeps the pacing of the original, but the electropop sound is completely stripped away, and instead it's replaced with this chunky, chugging guitar riff and a cross between a nu metal and hard rock / metal delivery. The verses almost bring like an emo punk vocal style to the song, and the chorus might be familiar to some fans of the original because it's really a heavy rock version where the melody is still pretty much present and recognizable. However, the bridge of the song, "I'm drunk in the back of the car and I cried like a baby coming home from the bar," instead of being sung, in this version, it's spoken in a deep, breathy voice to build to a crunchy, heavy breakdown that leads to the second half of the bridge, "And I snuck through the garden gate." That entire segment is screamo over a massive riff. However, they do bring back the clean vocals for the final chorus, but at the close of the song, you're getting a Lamb of God-esque "With You" growl to close out the track. So for the heavy rock fans that listen to this show, this is definitely your version. Following that up, I'm not going to go too far removed from Versus Me. I'm going to stay in a similar vein musically, but we're going to dial back the heft a little bit. And we're also going to bring the gender flip back at least to the halfway point, as this song starts off similar to Versus Me, because at its core, it is a heavier version than the original, but the first verse is female fronted, and it keeps the groove of the original all the way through the first chorus. The second verse gender flips the song again, but takes the second verse to a double time pacing with male vocals. This adds this hard rock meets punk spirit, but it's not quite pop punk per se. I'd say we got like this emo vibe punk thing going on. Be warned, the second half of this verse does introduce more screamo elements, which personally I dug in this version, but I can assume that the purists of the original might be turned off by this. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm all in on this one. The bridge isn't as transformed as Versus Me and feels a lot more familiar to the original track, but the last chorus does bring us back to that double time feel. And while on paper, all of these time changes might seem jarring, the band handles it with perfect precision, and the time changes feel extremely natural. So I highly recommend this version if you're into the heavier emo punk sound, because I think they nail it here. For version 3, we're going to put the emo to the side and go all in on the pop punk. So The Animal in Me does have some punk vibes, but Punk Rock Factory dives all in on the pop punk vibes, and that's why they're TikTok superstars. Once again, a gender flipped cover. If you're a fan of Me First and the Gimme Gimmes like I am, you're going to be right at home with Punk Rock Factory, and this version sounds exactly like what you'd expect. If you want to know what Blink-182, Sum 41, or The Offspring sounds like covering Taylor Swift's Cruel Summer, that's what you're getting here. It's fast, it's accessible, it's bouncy, but these guys really nail the pop-punk sound while giving fans of the original what they love from Taylor's version. It only runs 2 minutes and 39 seconds, so it never overstays its welcome. And if anything, it actually leaves you wanting more. So I guess what more can you ask for from a punk cover? Now, version 4, here's where it starts to get fun. I discovered this one going down a musical rabbit hole on YouTube. This cover is by a guy called Music by Blanks. And I'm guessing some of you have heard of him because at the time of this recording, he has over 1.2 million followers on YouTube. So I'm not just going to sit here and act like this is just some newcomer to the game. He obviously knows what he's doing and he does it right. This version is a, quote, "What if Cruel Summer was an 80s hit," end quote. And good Lord, he nails it, both in the song and the accompanying video. Synth drum sounds, keyboards heavy up in front in the mix. You got the hand claps, heavy reverb pretty much everywhere, an electric guitar solo. This is Taylor Swift's 80s yacht rock version. And I know this might not be the best comparison given the past history between the two, but if you're familiar with John Mayer's Sob Rock album, this is what Cruel Summer would sound like if it was on that album. I might have just turned this version off for some Taylor Swift fans, but for John Mayer fans, I might have just raised an eyebrow. I'm really trying to toe the line here because I know how passionate Swifties are about the song, and I know how passionate people that aren't Taylor Swift fans are about not being a fan. So I'm trying to give a little bit of something for everybody here. But here's the thing. The title might sound like this is an ironic joke that he's doing, but the production on the song is dead serious. It's crystal clear. And because of the original song's strength, this version's flawless. The video is shot in 4:3, not 16:9. So it gives you that real 80s television feel. He goes all in on the dress and the look of the video, the cuts, the close-ups. Anyone who grew up watching MTV in the 80s is going to appreciate what he's doing here. He's not mocking the decade, because if he tried to do that, he failed in that regard, because it comes across with nothing but admiration and love. In no way does this feel like a parody or mockery of anything. But with all that said, the coup de grace happens at 2 minutes and 49 seconds into the song because he throws in the 80s classic key change. Freaking brilliant. Version 5 is from Teddy Swims. Fans of Taylor Swift might actually be familiar with Teddy Swims because he's making a name for himself on the pop charts with hits like Lose Control, The Door, and so much more that's been coming out over the last year. His version of Cruel Summer comes courtesy of BBC Radio 1's Live Lounge sessions, and man, he knocks this one out of the park. It's stripped down to a piano and his voice for the entire first verse. It's slow, melodic, emotionally charged, and it invites you to really listen and focus on the lyrics, which is something that hasn't necessarily happened in the versions leading up to this. At 40 seconds, when the first chorus kicks in, the drums and band start building this whole song together, but the song keeps that emotional vibe throughout the second verse and beyond, and this drummer's groove, who's ever playing with him on this track, is just locked in. Honestly, you could play Teddy Swims' version back to back with Taylor's original, and it almost feels like you're listening to two different songs. Taylor's is breezy and, well, summery, and this version is just gut-wrenching and powerful. It tugs on the heartstrings, but dare I say in a good way, the bridge, they actually build up and it slams with heft. The drummer builds it to a frenzy, but he never overplays the song. He keeps the focus on the vocals and the storytelling of the vocals in the song. There are some hints of an 80s power ballad that seep in momentarily, but they disappear pretty quickly because it gets stripped right back down to a piano and vocal chorus before closing out with the full band. Honestly, Teddy Swims' version could be a radio hit in and of itself, and it could fit on any of his albums. I'm actually shocked he hasn't recorded a studio version of it because this one is that friggin' good. And the final version of Cruel Summer I want to share is thanks to fellow Pantheon Network mate Leah Jones, host of the Struts Life podcast, who introduced me to this insanely unique cover, which was recorded live on Triple J's Like a Version, and that is G-Flip. This is actually my introduction to her music, and good God, is she talented. Her version of the song feels, I'd say, closest to the original, albeit a little heavier, with guitars and a string section that really make up the synth elements, although those elements are incorporated tastefully here as well. I'm picturing like a Paramore vibe for this song, but both eras, the punk side fused with the poppier side, along with a love and admiration for the original. The pacing, the delivery, it's all there. The string section really adds a level of heft to the song and makes this version feel absolutely massive. Now, the part of this version that stole the show for me, for the first 2/3 of the song, G-Flip is just standing with a mic and singing the song and kind of letting the band back her. But at the line, "I love you ain't the worst thing that you ever heard," while she's singing it, she puts her microphone down, sits down on a second drum set, and uses the drum mic to sing for the remainder of the track while slaying the drums as she's playing. The first drummer switches to percussion at this point, and now she's singing full throttle, 100%, but she's also playing the song and including massive fills at the same time, and both are done to perfection. She's not just singing gang vocals, she's singing the melody with authority and playing the drum fills simultaneously. It's absolutely unreal, and it's not even the best part. By the time they repeat the bridge, she switches up the drum beat to this ridiculous groove that fuses punk, funk, and rock all in one while continuing that pitch perfect vocal performance. The band then rocks out while she nails a bunch of vocal runs. The string section keeps building and building, and it brings the song to this crazy climax, only to crescendo into a quiet close with just her voice and the string section. It's an absolute goosebumps moment. This version made me a G-Flip fan by far moving forward. Now, I've just talked about 6 different cover versions of Taylor Swift's Cruel Summer, and you could check out all of them over on the episode page at myweeklymixtape.com, where they're all embedded for you to listen to and watch. In the case of some of these live performances, you definitely need to watch pretty much most of these, although The Animal in Me is just an audiogram version of the song. But just as a reminder, the 6 renditions once again are from Versus Me, The Animal in Me, Punk Rock Factory, Music by Blanks, Teddy Swims, and G-Flip. If you like what you've heard from any of these artists, please go to their pages, follow them, like their videos, connect with them on social media, and support the other songs they're releasing. Follow them on Spotify or wherever. Go to Qobuz and buy their songs, because as far as I'm concerned, there's a ton of great music to dive into from all 6 of these bands and artists. Finally, I threw a poll up on the episode page because I would love to know what your favorite rendition of the song is, outside of Taylor's original, of course. So make sure to head over to the episode page and vote for your favorite cover, or message me at myweeklymixtape@gmail.com and let me know which version of Cruel Summer was your favorite and why. Then remember, you can find My Weekly Mixtape on almost all the social media haunts at My Weekly Mixtape. You can also head to myweeklymixtape.com to check out the full catalog of My Weekly Mixtape episodes. And finally, if you like what you're hearing on the show, you can help me out by either telling a friend, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. There you can enjoy ad-free episodes of the show, gain early access to upcoming episodes, hear bonus episodes like this one, chime in on future topics, become a guest curator, and so much more. Once again, patreon.com/myweeklymixtape. That's all for this week. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, enjoy the tunes.